السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته طلابنا الأعزاء. Today we talk about the finger spring in this lab. Finger spring is an active component which move the tooth mesiodistally or distomedially and situated at the palatal side, and it is constructed from 0.6 hard stainless steel wire. We take a piece of wire about 10 centimeter and we straight it, and we do the non-traumatic ends as we see here in both free ends of the wire. Before we construct the finger spring, we should draw these lines. The first line represents the mid-palatal suture or the midline here, pass between the two central incisors through the palate, and then we determine the largest mesiodistal distance from the occlusal surface of the first permanent premolar. From this distance we take the midpoint and then start to draw this perpendicular line through the palate and reach to here about some distance from the mid-palatal suture. And then we draw the first line. This line, dotted line, represents the position of the active arm before moving the tooth mesiodistally, and draw this line start from the distal point through the palate, reach to this area or this point and join with the first dotted line. This second dotted line represents the final position of the active arm when the tooth move from the mesial to the distal side and situated here. Finally, the position of the active arm should be here. The finger spring composed from first active arm, start from the main coil and pass through the palate and reach to the occlusal part, and then pass through the buccal surface, reach to desirable undercut area. Second, the main coil. This main coil situated from the midline about 2 millimeter. And the third component is the tag, which is constructed as a zigzag in a zigzag manner and about 1 centimeter or less, and end with this small L shape which is perpendicular on the palatal mucosa, which allow the acrylic to embed below the wire and leave this 0.5 to 1 millim enough room for the acrylic to embed below the wire and catch and retain the component inside the acrylic. Start our steps. We take this piece of wire we divide it in 3/3 and we start to construct the finger spring from this point, which represent the junction between the 2/3 and this 1/3. The main coil is about 3 to 4 millimeter internal diameter, so we choose the larger size from that coil that we construct it for the recurved spring or the spring, and then start our wire bending by moving and bend the active arm and we should do the first turn in a good contact of the wire, and we reach to this step. This part of the wire, which represent the active arm, and it is longer than the first one. Here, this is the point that we end our circle. The active arm should be in upward position, and then from this point we should do a right angle. Like here. The low wire represent the retentive tag, and this, the above one, represent the active arm. This circle should be divided into 4 quadrants. We should turn the wire to this quadrant. I mean, make a circle and 1 quadrant. When we reach this point that we determine it, we should do a simple bend for the active arm to allow it to pass through the pellet to reach the occlusal surface, as we see here. Like that. Then we take the tag and start to construct the zigzag way to complete our retentive arm. We change the direction of the wire to adapt very well to the palatal side. By making it slope slightly to adapt very well to the palatal side. Here Here we can see the shadow of the wire on the Steadicast. This represents that the wire elevated from the Steadicast from about 0.5 to 1 millim to allow for the acrylic to embed below the wire and catch the wire. This can be done by construction of this small L shape which is perpendicular on the palatal mucosa. Then we start to complete our active arm. This active arm should be situated here, the main coil at this position, and then we can do or determine the occlusal point as we see here, and we can do our bend by this method. Then we start for formation of the C clasp in the buccal surface by allowing and putting this point here, and then we do the small retentive arm like here. We should determine the end of the non-traumatic end, which should be end with the small coil or non-traumatic end. Cut it and then squeeze it. Very well. Now we finish our finger spring. Like that, and should be passive when we concentrate it, not active. As we see here, we finish our construction to the finger spring, which is a simple finger spring. Thank you for your kind attention.